Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of History Briefing. Today we will go over the causes of World War I and how it started. It is a very complicated subject to understand, so please bear with me. The initial spark of World War I has been credited to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a young Serbian named Gavrilo Princip on June 28, 1914. However, this was just a culmination of an extensive chain of events that preceded, which had as a consequence the killing of more than 8 million and 10 more million with scars for the rest of their lives. The root cause of World War I can be explained in a single word: nationalism. Since the conscription of Germany in 1871, Europe had been in a state of accelerated growth and desire for expansion. Germany, emerging as the victor of the Franco-Prussian War, took Alsace and Lorraine from France and taxed the French heavily to pay for war reparations, a subject with which created a grudge against the Germans later seen during the Treaty of Versailles. The leaders of Germany, England, and Russia were all cousins to each other, a relation that will play a major role in the upcoming events. In Germany, Kaiser Wilhelm II decided to break away from Otto von Bismarck, who was the prime minister that led the German states to unify and initiated an armament race to create the most powerful country in Europe, with a new naval fleet that would counteract the British Navy. Austria-Hungary was an empire in decline which had many ethnicities and nationalities which were all tied together under a totalitarian empire. Austria-Hungary had a collective nationalism sentiment against the Serbs, seeing them as a lower ethnicity. Italy, who was the other ally of Austria-Hungary and Germany, conformed alongside these two countries what was to be called the Central Powers. Russia, with their leader Tsar Nicholas II, who was cousin with the Kaiser of Germany and the King of England, did not enjoy a good acceptance by the Russians. Having been affected by hunger, a very clear division of social classes, and having lost the Russo-Japanese War, only created more resentment from the Russian people towards the Tsars and the family. The French, having lost territories to the Germans in the war in 1870-1871, were expectant of a future war against the Germans, and so decided to form a treaty with Russia called the Entente, which would respond if another one went to war. On the other hand, Great Britain, still in control of vast landmarks throughout the world, depended on these territories as a source of wealth. Russians with France, Germany with Austria-Hungary and Italy, while England remained neutral but had a peace treaty with Belgium in which they would jump in if the Belgians were ever to be attacked. So, having set the background of World War I, we go back to June 28, 1914, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo by a young Serbian called Gavrilo Princip. So, why did the assassination of one man who was next in succession for the crown of the Austro-Hungarian Empire had to deal with the start of World War I? Well, the Austrians blamed the Serbians for supporting Gavrilo Princip and his group called the Black Hand, who were the ones that carried out a terrorist attack in Sarajevo in June 1914. An ultimatum was given by Austria-Hungary in which demanded Serbia to some ridiculous terms, which in fact they did accept, with the exception of the last one. Having done this and allowing the term to expire, Vienna declared war on Serbia and initiated attacks on the border. Since Serbia was an ally of Russia, Russia declared a mobilization of its army towards the Austro-Hungarian border, causing the Germans to also mobilize their army and abide to the petitions of Kaiser Wilhelm II to his cousin Tsar Nicholas of Russia to stop the mobilization. Knowing that the Austro-Hungarian and German conflict with the Russians will bring in the French, the Germans had invented a plan to counterattack this. Since the late 1800s, a plan had been invented in order to avoid a two-front war, what was to be called the Schlieffen Plan. A plan in which German troops would cross through Belgium and Holland and around the French army in order to capture Paris, while giving the definitive blow to the French and concentrate all of the major forces in the east to face the Russians. Since it was just a matter of time, the Germans placed the action plan into effect, crossing through Belgium and into France. Belgium had a pact with Great Britain, who would defend them in case of an invasion or war, and so the Germans decided to attack France through Belgium as swiftly as possible before the French could amass their army and before the British landed on France. The initial attack was held up by the Belgian army who delayed the German offensive by 3 weeks, allowing enough time for British troops to set a foothold in French soil. More ensuring battles continued throughout the year, such as the Battle of the Marne, which held the German offensive and prevented Paris from being captured. After this, both sides experimented a new type of war, with soldiers from the enemy forces digging up positions on the ground which would difficult any attacks against them, making both sides try to overrun each other until they finally met in the English Channel. What was to be called the Battle to the Sea, creating a new whole network of what will be called trenches. These trenches would go all the way from the English Channel to Switzerland, in complex formation that wouldn't allow the other army to swing around them, while on the Eastern Front, due to its massive ground to manage, the war kept itself as mobile as it could. In what was to be known at the moment as the Great War, or the War to End All Wars, little was known that it would still develop for 3 more years and enfold all of Europe and the world into a carnage that will see 40 million soldiers mobilizing and over 8 million dead. And remember folks, if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. You can also share this video with your friends, coworkers, or anybody you know that is interested in history. Remember, this is what this channel is about, history briefing.